مرحبا جميعا. Hello everybody. أنا لينا أبو حبيب من معهد الأصفري للمجتمع المدني والمواطني. I'm going to switch to English. So I'm Lina Abu Habib from the Asfari Institute for Civil Society and Citizenship at the American University in Beirut. And it's really a pleasure to get to this place where we're launching the MENA Working Group on care. Before I start, just with a very brief introduction, I just want to tell you that we have English to Arabic interpretation available, and I want to thank our interpreter, Ghadir and Christine, who are almost part of the team and who know very well our work. So please, if you need interpretation, please switch in to the language that you prefer. So thank you all very much. I just wanted to start by saying that this is the outcome at this stage of a milestone, actually, of our work over the past almost more than a year on centering care, in thinking about gender equality, policies towards gender equality, but also centering a care in our discussions, in our research on equality in the MENA region. And this was triggered really by rethinking our whole social relations, our whole failing economic systems and failing governance system, and the overlapping crises that we are going through, be it occupation, conflict, genocide, climate disasters, omnicide, which is basically the destruction of land and people, and the ways this has gendered impact, particularly in increasing the burden of care that women and girls usually carry in our region. And I want to start to also acknowledge that the burden of care is the starting point, which is exacerbated by genocide, occupation, economic destruction, corruption even. So I'm very happy that we are here. The ways in which this discussion will go is that after 2 years or a little bit less than a year of working on the care agenda and joining the Global Alliance for Care as members, and focusing on localizing knowledge production on care in our region, on engaging in advocacy on care, and in also creating spaces for building capacities, discussions, and networking on care. We sent out a call to, and after consultation with the Global Alliance for Care and with Oxfam, and I'm very happy to have our friend and colleague Hadil with us from Ramallah. So one of the strategies that we're putting forward is putting together an informal working group on care for the MENA region that will steer the efforts in knowledge production, in convening, and in advocacy on care. And joining this group was totally open, totally voluntary, and I'm very happy with the really high level of interest that we have received. And that's the purpose of our conversation today. So without further ado, I'm gonna, first of all, after welcoming you all and welcoming Yara from the Global Alliance for Care and Hadil from Oxfam, the speakers who will be with us, who will be sharing their interest in the working group, and my colleague Carla, who will be sharing with you the details of what was done before and where do we see this work going. So I'm going to hand over directly to Carla to moderate the conversation. تفضلي Carla, and thank you all for being with us.
Thank you, Lina, and thank you everyone for joining us today. It's such a pleasure to finally launch this MENA Working Group. We've been trying for so long to make it happen, and finally it's there. I would like to give the floor to Dr. Hadil Kazaz, the MENA Regional Gender Director or Coordinator at Oxfam International. Hadil, the floor is yours.
شكرا كارلا. أنا بدي أحكي بالعربي إذا حدا بحب إنه ياخد ترجمة. أنا مبسوطة كتير إنه أكون معكم اليوم. في الواقع إنه اهتمامنا كمؤسسات نسوية وكحركات نسوية في قضايا الرعاية أو العمل الرعائي هو له تاريخ طويل. يعني يمكن أول مرة بنحط على الورق كالتزامات كانت في منهاج عمل بكين قبل 30 سنة، وإحنا الآن ننتظر إنه نحتفل أو نعيد مراجعة كمان منهج عمل بكين السنة القادمة. إطلاق هذه المجموعة وعملها هو أمر في غاية الأهمية، وببين لنا قديش إحنا كنا بنطلع على الأعمال الرعاية بطريقة مختلفة عما يعني بيحدث الآن. إحنا الآن مهتمين في العمل الرعائي بطريقة بتحطه في مركز كل شيء، مركز الاهتمام، مركز المواطنة، مركز محاربة اللامساواة بكافة أشكالها، بما في ذلك مساواة النوع الاجتماعي، بس كمان أنواع أخرى من المساواة اللي طول عمرها، يعني طول عمرنا إحنا مش بس في المنطقة بس في حول العالم. العمل الرعائي هو عبارة عن الجبل اللي حامل كل المجتمعات الإنسانية، ولا يتم تقديره بالطريقة اللازمة. في الواقع مؤسسة أكسفام من مدة طويلة بتهتم بالعمل الرعائي وتحاول أنه تشتغل أو تعمل عليه، ولكن في الفترة الأخيرة وتحديدا مع جائحة كورونا بدأ الإدراك أنه العمل الرعائي ليس فقط ما كنا نركز عليه سابقا. يعني زمان كنا نحكي عن unpaid care work أو العمل الرعاية، ونطالب بالمشاركة، نطالب أن يكون الناس في أن يشارك الرجل المرأة في عمل الرعاية على سبيل المثال. وأحيانا إذا يعني كنا نتحدث عن موضوع سياسات كنا نطالب بدور الدولة في العمل الرعائي، ولكن لم يتم تقدير وتقييم العمل الرعائي بما يتوجب وبما يمكن أن يكون، وذلك بسبب أنه العمل الرعائي دائما لا يحتسب ضمن الحسابات القومية، لا يتم الاعتراف به، لا يتم اعتباره على أنه عمل محسوب اللي هو يعني يؤدي إلى حماية المجتمعات الإنسانية. الآن في جائحة كورونا اكتشفنا أنه العمل الرعائي هو عمل رعاية الفرد، رعاية الأسرة، بس كمان هو رعاية المجتمع. هو اللي ساعد في أن المجتمعات الإنسانية تستمر في أو تستطيع أن تحاول التخلص من عبء الجائحة من خلال أنه النساء، تحديدا النساء والفتيات، قمنا بأعمال هي عادة مسؤولية الدولة، سواء من تعليم، من صحة، من رعاية مرضى، من رعاية معاقين، من الحفاظ على النسيج المجتمعي. كل شيء قامت فيه النساء، وأيضا النساء صدر عملهم الرعائي في حين لم يستطعن عمله إلى الحيز العام. فهمنا الآن العمل الرعائي هو فهم زي ما حكت لينا موضوع له علاقة بالمواطنة، له علاقة بالاعتراف بقيمة عمل المرأة سواء كان مدفوع الأجر أو غير مدفوع الأجر، وأيضا الاعتراف بالعمل الرعائي كعمل غير مدفوع بدرجة كافية underpaid، يعني عمل يتم تصديره إلى الفئات الأكثر ضعفا، العمالة الوافدة والعمالة المهاجرة، أو للأكثر ضعفا في المجتمع، المرأة، إذا لم تكن المرأة فهو الفتيات، وهم النساء اللواتي يأتين من مناطق مهمشة ريفية أو غيرها. عندما نتحدث عن الرعاية أيضا ندرك أن العمل الرعائي ليس فقط المجتمع، ولكن رعاية الكوكب بشكل عام. ما تقوم به النساء من محافظة على البيئة، محافظة على استمرارية الحياة، الزراعة المحلية، الأساليب الخضراء للعيش وسبل العيش، هذه كلها تساهم في حماية البيئة بشكل عام. وإذا ندرك أن العمل الرعائي ليس فقط فردي ومجتمعي، ولكنه عمل شامل على مستوى العالم كله. عندما نتحدث أيضا على أهمية هذا الدور والاعتراف به، لا نتحدث فقط عن زيادة الوعي بأهميته، نتحدث أيضا عن ضرورة أن يتم تضمينه ضمن سياسات الرعاية الاجتماعية والضمان الاجتماعي والمساواة، لأنه العمل الرعائي هو جزء من كما قلت أن الدولة في ظل ضعفها وفي ظل عدم إمكانية توفير الخدمات عادة ما تقوم بتصدير هذا العمل للمجتمعات المحلية وبالتالي للنساء. على سبيل المثال أثناء الجائحة رأينا أن النساء يقومن بالتعليم ويقومن بالصحة. على سبيل المثال الآن في غزة عندما تعاني النساء بكافة الطرق ومن أكبر إبادة جماعية موجودة في العالم وأمام وتحت أبصار العالم جميعا، تقوم النساء بالدور الأكبر بعمل الرعاية من الحفاظ على المجتمع، بما في ذلك العودة إلى أساليب لقرون مضت، يعني سواء الطهي على الحطب أو سواء المشي لمسافات طويلة لجلب الماء أو حتى لتنظيف الخيام في ظل وجودها في منطقة في بيئة موبوءة يعني تحاط بالنفايات وغيرها. وليس غريبا أنه حتى في مؤسستنا عندما أردنا أن نبدأ نعمل شيئا في قطاع غزة أن النساء كنا أول من تواصل معنا. النساء ومؤسساتهم هم اللي قاموا ببدايات العمل، سواء من مساعدة في توصيل الطعام أو حتى طهي الطعام. وليس غريبا أيضا أن النساء اللواتي يعملن في القطاع غير الرسمي في أعمال تعتبر امتداد لعملهم الرعائي مثل عمل الطعام على سبيل المثال، كنهن من دعمنا المجتمع من خلال المطابخ المجتمعية أو ما يعرف بالتكية. إذن عندما تغلق الأبواب أمام العالم كله، عندما يصبح لا يوجد أمل في أي مكان، نجد أن النساء هن من يقومن من خلال دورهم الرائع بالعودة وحفاظ على هذا المجتمع والعودة إلى نقطة البداية. نحن قد قمنا بالكثير، يعني أنا بدي أقول إنه من أهم، يعني إذا نظرت إلى مجموعة عمل حول العمل الرعائي تقوم به أو يقودها معهد الأصفري، أعتقد أن أحد أهم القضايا التي الموجودة هي المساهمة بشكل كبير في إنتاج معرفي موطن خاص بنا، بمنطقتنا، بفهمنا لواقعنا، بفهمنا لتحدياتنا، سواء على مستوى السياسات أو على مستوى الحكومات الفاشلة أو على مستوى تاريخ الاستعماري الطويل. عندما يوجد محل يمكننا من خلاله إنتاج معرفة ومشاركتها بلغتنا وبطريقتنا وبتحليلنا وبصوت النساء أنفسهن وبرؤيتهم للعالم، هنا يمكن أن يحدث الفرق. وهنا يصبح العمل الرعائي ليس فقط عن العدالة الجندرية وعدالة النوع الاجتماعي، ولكن عن عدالة بشكل عام وعن مساواة الإنسان وحقوق الإنسان بشكل عام. أنا بدي أقول إنه هناك عدة أدوات وعدة طرق لصنع السياسات، وفعلا تطورنا، ويمكن أهم الإنجازات أن موضوع العمل الرعائي الآن أصبح في قلب وفي صلب عمل إعادة النظر في منهاج عمل بكين، وأن تقدير عمل المرأة من خلال إعادة النظر في الحسابات القومية إذا كانت هي أفضل طريقة فعلا لاحتساب العمل أم أن هناك طرق أخرى لاحتساب العمل الرعائي. كل هذه القضايا هي بداية العمل، وهي ما يجعل من هذه المجموعة ومن عملها أمر في غاية الأهمية. عشان هيك أنا يعني سعيدة جدا أن المجموعة تنطلق اليوم بجهودكن جميعا، وأنه أتمنى أن أرى في المرحلة القليلة القادمة فعلا إنجازات يعني يعترف بها في مجال التأثير على السياسات، في مجال إنتاج المعرفة، في مجال تضمين العمل الرعائي في جميع القضايا السياسية والاجتماعية والمجتمعية في منطقتنا. وشكرا لكم، شكرا كثير للينا ولكارلا وللجميع على هذا الجهد. شكرا.
Thank you so much, Hadil. I'll give the floor to Yara, the Outreach and Advocacy Officer at the Global Alliance for Care, who will tell us a bit more about the Alliance and also how we can be part of it. So Yara, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Carla. Thank you, Lina, Hadil. It's great to be here. It's great to see everyone. I'd like to begin, first of all, by telling you a bit about the Alliance for those of you who don't know us. The Alliance is a multi-stakeholder community which was launched in 2021 by the Government of Mexico and UN Women during the Generation Equality Forum as a space for collective action to advance this care agenda that we've been talking about from the global to the local levels. Today, we have over 200 members from governments, local and national, civil society, international organizations, academia, etc. And all of these members cooperate and collaborate through advocacy, learning, and communication strategies to position the centrality of care, its importance to our societies and economies, but also to push for its recognition as work, as a right, and as a public good. And this alliance is born, of course, out of this need that we've been hearing about to address the profound implications of this unequal distribution of care on women and girls. And we know that globally, women spend 3 times more time on unpaid care work than men. In the MENA region, this number reaches 4.7, the highest in the world. And that this disproportionate responsibility limits their personal well-being, their participation in the labor force, their education, but more than anything, their free time, their physical and mental health, and their time to do whatever they want. And we know that also caregivers are either unpaid or underpaid when they're part of the labor force. They're under-recognized and they face intersecting forms of discrimination due to race, socioeconomic status, migration status, among others. Also, I'd like to mention that the MENA region also has the second highest rate of care dependency in the world, which is also, as Lina and Hadil were saying, it's exacerbated by the demographic trends, public health crises, war, conflict, and humanitarian crisis. So as we were saying in one of the webinar series around this working group, far from not being a priority, this issue is all the more urgent to be addressed because women usually fill the void left by the state in these contexts, and they bear the brunt of providing for their families, their loved ones, and their communities in times when the public infrastructure breaks down, where there's economic crisis, violence, war, and as such, increased care needs. And also, despite these volatile contexts and these patriarchal social and political structures, we know that this region also has a vibrant feminist movement that has been bringing these issues to the forefront for decades, and that these organizations, collective actors, have been critical to advocating for legal reforms, grassroots mobilization, and even providing directly to women in diverse communities and offering much needed services. And these are the same actors that are going to be critical to putting care on the agenda in the MENA region. So that's why I would like to congratulate this initiative, particularly the work of the Asfari Institute and Oxfam, to bring together all of these like-minded people to collaborate, learn from each other, and take action to build more caring societies with gender equality at the center. So again, reiterating our support for this initiative, I offer our assistance in any way that it is needed for this working group. And I hope you'll find in the Global Alliance for Care a welcoming and enriching environment for this group. And I invite you also to join us as members to keep articulating these efforts from the regional, local level to the global one. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yara, and thanks to the Global Alliance for Care for their continuous support in this. I'd like to ask the members of the working group to introduce themselves. Maybe you can start with Angela. Can you tell us a bit about yourself, why you're interested in being part of this working group, and where you are from?
Of course. Thank you, Carla, and thank you, Alina, for including me in this working group. It's an honor. So my name is Angela Masouh. I'm an assistant professor at the Hariri School of Nursing, AUB. I've been working in the healthcare field, in nursing in particular, and cardiovascular nursing in specific since 2004. So this is my 20th year dealing with patients and their informal caregivers. And as a nurse who is specialized in cardiovascular care and in heart failure, I deal a lot with chronic diseases. And I know internationally and in Lebanon, the burden of chronic illness is increasing, and people who are living with debilitating chronic diseases are living longer. And this will imply that they will need active informal caregivers. Also, as a clinician, I came to be aware that informal caregivers, they provide around 90% of the in-home long-term care that is needed by adults. And as Hadil and Yara were saying, most of this informal caregiving is done by females. So in my studies, actually, more than 80% of the caregivers in my studies were females. So because I saw this in the clinical setting and while teaching students as well, and in my practice, I wanted to translate that to research. So I initially, in my PhD, I started researching determinants of self-care and engagement of taking care of your own health in the home setting. And I could notice that the patients in Lebanon, they don't do it alone. There's always a silent partner. Sometimes this partner is not silent. They are the most active in the dyadic relationship. And then I came to know about dyads and dyadic care, which are the patient and their informal caregiver. So moving from that, the first study I did was looking at caregiver strain. And I wanted to see if caregivers in Lebanon and in the MENA region are strained by this caregiving role. Now, of course, caring for a loved one with a chronic illness can bring significant positive experiences to a caregiver, but at the same time, because this role is not supported, as Hadil said and as Yara said, especially in the MENA region, this can actually bring out feelings of stress or burden or strain. So in my initial study, I looked at strain predictors in patients and dyads living with heart failure. And then throughout the data collection phase, it was during COVID and the 2020 blast and the financial and economic crisis, we could see that the patterns are changing and that informal caregivers are more vocal about them being tired, about them having to go back to the workforce and being a caregiver. So I decided to shift my study into working on caregiver burnout. So the concept of burnout discusses emotional exhaustion, depersonalization of the patient you are taking care of, and loss of feelings of general personal accomplishments. So I've already finished my data collection, and the data is very rich, and it can tell us a lot that there is high emotional exhaustion among caregivers. There is social desirability because, as Hadil and Yara said, in the MENA region, it is expected to perform unpaid care, especially by women. And actually, in my study, I found out that the majority of caregivers provide more than 4. So that is how I came to be interested in this working group from a pure health perspective and a dyadic research perspective.
Thank you so much, Angela. Hopefully, we'll be able to delve deeper into the findings as part of this working group at a later stage. Antonetta, would you like to introduce yourself?
Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Oh, great. Thank you very much. Shukran, Adel, for your intervention. Very, very interesting and inspiring to me. I would also like to thank you, Lina. Very nice to meet you. I'm a sort of fan of you, I must confess. So I'm really happy to join you, and thank you to have me. I am actually national Italian, but I'm based in Spain since 2012. So my interest to join the group is, first of all, the multidisciplinarity, the fact that the idea, if I'm right, is to impact directly the society and transfer the result of the research into the society and the policymakers too. And so what it is interesting to me is maybe the legal approach, the definition of care, the definition of a legal framework, and the obligation, if any, of states to guarantee care in substitution of family members. So what is also interesting to me is to underline that I heard, especially in the MENA region, that I would like to stress that this situation is not only in the MENA region, but as rightly Elena underlined, that because of these macro factors like climate change, genocide, war, economic inequalities, and injustice. So it's a diffused problem also in other areas of the Mediterranean Sea, especially, for example, in the south of Italy. And also because their social conditions still nowadays inside the families charge the care over women and girls. So I mean, we share more problems And so we need to share solutions. That's why, to me, this platform is a sort of platform where find solution which can be useful for locally and globally. So the interest on care is also in definition of care. What kind of assistance, what kind of instruments care should be should include inside an eventually established legal obligation of state to granted care, in line, for example, with the directive of the WHO, which define the access to palliative care as in a broader sense, including families like destinatory of the services, not caregiver. So this is just a few aspects, but I think that this is a really great platform where develop more topics, including from a human rights perspective. So not only from the women rights perspective, but also in terms of the right to palliative care, like a human right as defined by the committee, the UN Committee on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Hopefully, we will be able to delve into policy-oriented documents, but also discussions. I'll give the floor now to Abdessalam.
Good morning. Hello, everyone. And thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very, very delighted to join this initiative and this working group. So my name is Abdessalam Badr. I am an associate professor at Mohammed V University in Rabat and an expert within the United Nations Researcher Migration Hub. And currently, I am on sabbatical leave at Old Miss University in Oxford within a Fulbright program where I am writing a book on international law and policies governing the rights of separated and unaccompanied migrating children. Previously, I worked in different universities in California and New York, Germany, and Denmark, and Spain, and also worked with several organizations within the European Union and also the MENA region, such as the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung and the GRC, Global Young Academy, Westminster Foundation, the Arab Council for Social Sciences, among many others. Anyway, so my interest for this topic and also for joining this working group is because I've been working on, as I just mentioned, gender, migration, and youth for several years, both as an academic, but also as a policy development consultant. And my interest about care itself arose actually right after COVID in 2022, when we were doing some work with some migrating children, sub-Saharan migrating children on the borders of Morocco, who were identified as irregular or as undocumented. And then there, it was for the first time that I realized that there is a huge lack or gap, not in terms of the practice of, because the practice of or another is still being practiced, because we live in this region where like social solidarity and the work of grassroots movements and NGOs and associations kind of cover up the lag and the gaps that are existing institutionally and officially and also within the policy framework. So that was the very first time when I actually realized that there's a huge gap in the legal framework, especially when we talk to authorities and then they said that there are no official channels within which they could basically channel provisions or any kind of support, except through civil society organizations and their different namings. So I think that was the very first time when I started, my attention was drawn toward this, and I actually joined my colleague Antonietta in what she just mentioned, because when I started looking at this theme, I was surprisingly enough shocked by the lack of what Antonietta just mentioned, like a definition of care. I mean, there are basically about 5 or 6 United Nations reports or documents since the launching of the Alliance in Mexico in 2021. But actually, none of them define the operationalization of the term care. I mean, and it seems like it is being taken for granted to a certain extent. So I think we need to have an academic, operationalized, and institutional definition of care. And also here I would join my colleague Hadil, who talked about a contextualized definition and policy making, which is adapted to the specificities of our region. Of course, there is so much work that has been done in Canada and many other countries from which we could be inspired, but also we need to take into consideration the specificities of our region and the challenges that are typical to our region. So here I would highlight 3 main points. Is the fact that we need to institutionalize the definition for the term itself, and then take into consideration in the knowledge production process and the policy development processes, take into consideration 2 dimensions, contextuality and then intersectionality, because care is a very lacking aspect within the region, but care does not mean the same thing to different kind of groups. When we talk about, migrating children, they might need different kind of care than migrating women, but then migrating women who are pregnant might need different kind of than women, and then migrating pregnant children, which is very shocking, but it's existing, might need different kind of care than migrating children. So that's basically why I joined the group, and I'm very delighted to be among you. Just one thing, next time when you address, now there is a male among you, so it's not only Hunna, it's also Hum. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abdessalam. Hopefully, we will be able to delve deeper into the definitions of care work, but also think of possible policy-oriented initiatives as well that is contextualized for the region. I would like to give the floor to Mona from Egypt. Mona, are you with us?
أيوة، مساء الخير. أنا معاكم، سامعيني كويس؟
Yes, سامعينك.
Yes. أنا اسمي أنا من مصر. أنا بشتغل على القضايا الخاصة بالحقوق الاقتصادية والاجتماعية. يمكن تقريبا كده حوالي 17-18 سنة. أنا حاليا بشتغل استشاري مع UN، سواء UN Women أو ILO وهيئات أخرى، على القضايا الخاصة بالحق في العمل والتمكين الاقتصادي والحماية الاجتماعية. وأنا عندي مؤسسة النون لرعاية الأسرة، أنا المؤسس بتاعها ورئيسة مجلس الأمناء. اهتمامي بموضوع أعمال، معايا ماجستير في إدارة الأعمال. اهتمامي بموضوع أعمال الرعاية ده جاي من مجال عملي، إن أنا كنت مهتمة جدا إن أنا أطلع على الاقتصاد النسوي وأقرأ في الاقتصاد النسوي، وده ساعدني كتير في فكرة فهم بقى الأوضاع اللي بيحصل ليها النساء من تنميط وتمييز، وإن تكرار الأدوار اللي النساء بتقوم بيها جوه البيت هي اللي بتقوم بيها في سوق العمل. كتبت عدد مؤخرا يعني بعض المقالات حوالين ليها علاقة بال يعني موضوع الرعاية وتأثيره على أوضاع النساء. السنة اللي فاتت كنت أنا يعني استشاري لمشروع الGIZ حوالين أعمال الرعاية. في هذا الإطار عملت ورقة المفروض إنها يعني في إطار النشر حوالين موضوع أعمال الرعاية وتأثيرها على تنميط أعمال النساء في سوق العمل. وكنت أشرفت برضو على أوراق أخرى صدرت من باحثين آخرين، واشتغلت مع شابات على برنامج تدريبي عن هذه الأوراق. واشتغلت مع الUN، كنت أنا استشاري لمشروع خاص بعاملات المنازل، وأعدينا تدريب. أنا اللي كنت المسؤولة عن التدريب، لسه صادر من عدة شهور، حوالين دليل تدريبي إرشادي للحقوق والواجبات لعاملات المنازل. وطبعا كان ده جاي في إطار مشروع ليه علاقة باقتصاد الرعاية، واهتمينا جدا وطبقنا ده مع العاملات حوالين فكرة تدني الأوضاع الخاصة بمهنة عاملات المنازل، وعلاقة ده بفكرة تأنيس أعمال الرعاية وعدم تقدير العمل المنزلي. أيضا حاليا أنا الآن المفترض هبدأ برضو مشروع جديد مع الGIZ، أنا الاستشاري بتاعه. بنكمل شغلنا السابق في إن إحنا نشتغل مع مجموعة من الشباب والإعلاميين والمحامين حوالين موضوع أعمال الرعاية واقتصاد الرعاية، من خلال حلقات نقاشية وتصميم برنامج تفاعلي للشباب لنقل الفكرة ليهم. طبعا كمان بحكم شغلي في مع ILO، فأنا كمان طبعا لكل الاتفاقيات اللي هي خاصة بأعمال الرعاية والدور الإنجابي وكذا، طبعا أنا بشتغل عليها وبعملها مع أطراف العمل الثلاثة، مع الحكومة، مع النقابات، مع أصحاب الأعمال. يعني ده أنا كده بشكل يعني فيما يتعلق. طبعا سعيدة جدا بوجودي في هذا العمل المهم، اللي هو متوقع أن هو يساهم بشكل كبير في تعميق الموضوع عندي أكتر، واكتساب معلومات أكتر، وتبادل خبرات مع مجموعة متميزة زي اللي احنا موجودين معاها النهاردة. وشكرا.
Thank you so much, Mona. Since you mentioned the great work of GIZ, I would like to give the floor to our colleague and friend Jad Al-Khouri from GIZ to tell us a bit more about their work on care work, specifically the MENA Regional Project. Jad, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Carla. I'm not sure if my camera is on. I'm trying to figure out. Okay, great. Now you can see me. I'm just gonna give a brief introduction about our work. Thank you, Mona. Already, she has introduced quite a lot about our work on care work within the region, but more specifically in Egypt. So, as I mentioned in the chat already, my name is Jad Al-Khouri. I work in the GIZ Women Regional Project, which stands for Promoting Gender Responsive and Inclusive Politics and Economy in the MENA region. Basically, we're working on women empowerment, whether political or economic. And one of our regional workshops or regional series of workshops that we're doing has been on care work. Example is the work that has been done with Mona in the Egyptian context. So we have been working on the topic for the past 2 years. Our first workshop has been was organized in November 2022, and we are implementing activities that tackle the topic of care work through different initiatives in Lebanon, Egypt, Jordan, Palestine, Tunisia, and Morocco. For Lebanon, we're currently finalizing a study on care work and its impact in Lebanon. So hopefully we'll be able to share findings soon, and I hope in the next working group meeting we'll be able to do at least a presentation if we don't have the final study, but hopefully soon we'll be able to share the study. So basically, the workshops has been a series of lab approach workshops, and they are implemented. They were like two workshops have been implemented before, and the third one, and the final one, at least for this project, will happen in Cairo next month. But we also hope and plan to be continuing working with the different groups on care work also in the next phase. That's it, and thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you so much, Jad. Hopefully, we will be able to organize a discussion around the findings with the rest of the group. لبنى، بتحب تعرف عن حالك؟ You're still muted. Yeah.
مسموع صوتي؟
هلا إيه.
تمام. شكرا كارلا، شكرا جميعا، شكرا للحضور. أول شيء بدي يعني أتشكر اللجنة المنظمة، وأكيد يعني بتشكر معهد الأصفري لهالمجموعة المهمة اللي بتركز على الرعاية كقضية جوهرية بمسار العدالة الاجتماعية والمواطنة. أنا هون اليوم مو بس كناشطة بمجال الجندر وباحثة بجامعة نبراسكا بالولايات المتحدة، أيضا كمخرجة أفلام وثائقية بتسعى لتسليط الضوء على القصص يلي بتبرز واقع النساء والمجتمعات يلي منعيش فيها. يلي دفعني للانضمام لهالمجموعة هو التزامي العميق بتعزيز المساواة بين الجنسين، إبراز الدور المركزي للرعاية خاصة بمنطقة الشرق، منطقتنا بشرق الشرق الأوسطية وشمال أفريقيا، وقد تتشابك هي القضايا مع الأدوار الجندرية التقليدية والظلم الاجتماعي. من خلال ملاحظاتي كاستشارية ومدربة بمجال الجندر، أدركت قديش بيثقل عبء الرعاية كاهل النساء والفتيات، وقديش بيأثر على حياتهم المهنية والاجتماعية، ويعني للمدى الطويل. عملت بعدة أدوار بتتعلق بتمكين النساء والشباب، سواء من خلال الأفلام الوثائقية يلي سلطت الضوء فيها على القضايا الاجتماعية، أو من خلال البحوث المتعلقة بالعنف القائم على النوع الاجتماعي. وبعتقد أنه قضية الرعاية هي من أكثر القضايا يلي بيتم للأسف تجاهلها بالسياسات العامة، حتى بالحوارات النسوية، على الرغم من أنه هي أساسية لتحقيق العدالة الاجتماعية والمساواة الحقيقية بين الجنسين. بتمنى هالمجموعة العمل هي يكون لها دور فعال بتعزيز النقاش حول الرعاية بمنطقتنا، وتقديم رؤى جديدة حول كيفية معالجة هي القضية من منظور شامل بيربط بين العدالة الاجتماعية، الجندر، وأكيد السياسات العامة. وبطمح أنه تسهم هي المجموعة ببناء شبكات تعاون مع منظمات وجهات دولية وليس فقط إقليمية، للاستفادة من التجارب والخبرات المتاحة العالمية، وتطبيق أفضل أكيد الممارسات بمنطقتنا. شكراً معهد الأصفري على على جهودكم المستمرة لدعم هالقضية المهمة، وإن شاء الله بتطلع للشغل معكم مستقبلاً لتحقيق تغيير شامل حقيقي ومستدام بهذا المجال. شكراً.
شكرا كتير لك لبنى. حأطلب من نبا تكتب شوي عن حالها بالشات لأنه ما عم نقدر نسمعها كتير منيح. وهلا I'll share my screen. I'm going to switch to English. I'm going to share my screen and tell you a bit more about the work that we have been doing about care work, but also the terms of reference for this working group. And I'll share also some of the survey results from the survey that I sent to the working group. So before I start, I'll just give you a bit overview of who we are and what we do. Basically, we work a bit of research, but also advocacy work. The research could involve research projects, publications, or op-eds, or we also do advocacy in the form of panel discussions, talks, conferences, and trainings. So for the past couple of years, as Lina mentioned, we have been working a lot on care work, and mainly in 4 different areas. The first area was kind of developing and delivering a webinar series called the Centering Care in the MENA region webinar series, which I'll tell you a bit more about the topics later. But we also had a care research grant where we gave 2 amazing researchers from the region the chance to work on care-related research work, and I'll tell you also a bit more about the topics. And we are here launching the MENA Working Group, which is supported by the Global Alliance for Care. And finally, we are in the process of developing a virtual knowledge hub on care and social production in the MENA region. So as I said, the webinar series covered many different topics, bridging care with other interdisciplinary topics such as climate change, looking at the kafala system and the rights of migrant domestic workers in the region, but also thinking as care work in general, how can it promote gender equality, and also looking at economic perspectives and alternatives when it comes to care work. In terms of the research work that we have been doing, one of the researchers looked at the impact of gender roles on and in its relation with unpaid care work in relation to the maternal mental health and looking at many different countries within the region. And the other researcher looked at the relationship between child domestic labor and the challenges of valuing domestic work in Iraq specifically. These two research papers, they are kind of being finalized. And once they're ready, hopefully as part of this working group, we will be able to discuss the findings and delve deeper into the research findings of these papers. And when it comes to the terms of reference of the working group, we are looking at many different ways in which you can engage in it. We are hoping to build partnerships and collaborations between different stakeholders that are interested in advancing the care agenda in the region. And this could involve maybe writing joint statements or doing joint research projects, or even working together towards capacity building events and creating spaces for dialogue and convenings amongst each other. And this also means looking at scoping and mapping of emerging CSO actors and stakeholders. And we've asked the members or the people who expressed their interest in joining the working group to tell us a bit more about the areas of work that they are interested in discussing within the framework of this group. And the majority thought it would be a great idea to look at the economic empowerment of women in care roles, but also looking at how care roles and gender equality intersect. Other people also mentioned that they would like to look at recognizing the value of unpaid work, reducing the burden of care work, and also redistributing care responsibilities more equitably. In terms of the activities or the events that they would feel it would be beneficial as a member to be part of this working group, many people mentioned in-person meetings and workshops and resource sharing, such as toolkits, publications, training, but also looking at webinars, collaborative research projects, and advocacy and policy development initiatives. When it comes to their contribution as members, many people said it would be a great idea to participate together in advocacy and research projects, sharing expertise and knowledge, looking at providing resources or connections from their network, or volunteering for administrative or organizational roles. And when finally, this is the last part of the survey, when we asked the members which challenges or barriers they would like to address as part of this working group, many people said burnout and gender inequity, looking at social and cultural norms that perpetuate inequitable care roles, looking at the lack of legal protection for migrant domestic workers, as well as looking at social protection and gender-based discrimination. In terms of the work plan or what we're thinking of doing for the next 6 months or by the end of this year is, first of all, form a steering committee for this working group. And hopefully we'll try to finish this by end of October. And then we will have 2 capacity building workshops, which will be held online. One of them will be in October and the second will be in November. The topics of these capacity building workshops will be determined later in coordination with the members to see what are the current needs or what kind of workshops they would like us to host. And we are also hoping to hold an online event on the International Day of Care, which is on October 29th. We're looking also at the 16 days campaign against gender-based violence, which typically it's a global campaign that happens from November 25th until December 10th. And we're also going to be working on a comparative research study on the impact of water or electricity scarcity on unpaid care work responsibilities. This will be a regional comparative work. And finally, we are in the process of developing a knowledge hub on care and social reproduction in the MENA region. As part of this work, we would like the members to also be part of every activity, whether in the form of organizing it, or even attending it or pitching in terms of their ideas. And hopefully moving forward, once we form the steering committee, we will get back to the members in terms of the specific dates and the topics that will be held. This is it for me. And in case you haven't joined the working group yet and you're interested in joining, please scan this QR code. I will also share the link in the chat for those that need it. And I give the floor back to Lina, who will be leading the Q&A session. So if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hands or write it in the comments, and Lina will take it from here.
Thank you, Carla. So this is, so let me just make a few points in relation to this. And yes, thank you. Those of you who would like to add their details, their information in the chat, you're welcome. We're recording all this, and we will get back to you with the follow-up on this email, on this event. So I want to open the floor if you have any questions first. Some of things, yes, we will be sending, Mona, we will be sending all of this. We will be sending the details about this meeting, a summary, and also the work plan for the next 6 months. So, so I'd like to open the floor for those of you who have any questions. I think I've answered Mona. Thank you, Cynthia, for the details. Naba from Sudan, thank you so much. And yes, definitely, for sure, Naba, I think the whole issue of, and I think we started by saying this, the impact of conflict on increasing the care burden on women and girls is definitely something that is at the heart of what we're hoping to work on. Are there any questions that people would like to raise at this moment, or any suggestions? If not, I'm happy to move into the next steps. What would be the next steps? But I just want to make sure there are no. I see there's a hand up. There's Rana Jisr first, Rana, and then Antonietta again. Rana, تفضلي.
Okay, hi. Hi,
Hello.
everybody. Thank you very much for this very interesting meeting and webinar. I'm interested in joining. The next step is only to maybe to go into the link that is shared now from Carla, in order to maybe you can get our CV to know more about us, whether you find us eligible or not for your activities about care. Oh my God. There is, yeah, I can hear a loud voice.
Please go ahead. Maybe the loud voice is from me. I will mute myself.
It's okay.
The cat just dropped something. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's okay. Just I am a professor in management. I have a degree in management from France. Also, I am a certified coach from ICF, and I have several articles about women empowerment, women leaders, and currently I'm preparing my book about women over the rooftop. This is why I'm telling you that I'm interested in this group. It aligns a lot with my experience, with my knowledge, and with my interest as well. So what is the next step, please?
Okay, Rana, I will talk about this once we take all the questions. Thank you. Antonietta, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much to give me the floor again, Lina. Just a few points. The first one, I agree with Adil and with you about the impact, the necessity to concentrate attention, to pay attention to the impact of war over women and the role they have in care services. But on this point, I suggest, if I may, to make a distinction in terms of, especially because of the special situation and the higher price women pay during war. I
Yes.
think that section merits to be a focus, a separate focus from the rest of the project. And then I would, if I may, because I forgot to mention, I mentioned the geographical location where I am, but I forgot to make any reference about the professional background. So I'm former associate professor of international law at the University of Santiago de Compostela. I was based there 10 years, and then I moved on. And at the present, I'm a senior legal advisor for few projects of the Council of Europe of human rights standards implementations. And at the same time, I based a non-resident fellow at the Basile School of International Affairs in Canada. I think I'm a lucky person because I have the chance to be involved in many projects, actively in many projects. And that's also why I'm so happy to be here today with all of you. And of course, if you have any question about background and interest, please ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Antonietta. I have Mar, whose hand is up. Mar, you've already written a long
Yes.
text in the chat about your work on unpaid care work. Is there anything additional you want to share?
I just would like to say hello to everyone, and I will actually suggest something. It would be important if you could share, as part of the next steps, all the names and the connections, so we can have some sort of shared communication rather than just during the webinars. I don't know if you already anticipated that, but I thought I would add that to the conversation. Thank you.
Okay, I'll be addressing that in the next step. In the chat, there's a very important point. I think that Maha is making, which is in terms of the different context, and particularly context of war, of occupation, of genocide. And I want to say that Hadil has addressed this specifically. And we have talked about the overlapping crisis, conflict and genocide being, really at the top ends. Yes, we are not taking a homogeneous view of the region. We know that there are trends in terms of the crisis, but we are also quite aware of different crises causing a different impact in terms of exacerbating the burden of care, but particularly in context of instability, forced migration, destruction of all social systems and services and institutions. So definitely, and we have a colleague with us who is from Suleymaniya, and you're very much welcome. This is not a funding initiative. This is a working group to further conversation, joint work, joint collaboration, to expand our, the interest on care, the discussion on care. Anybody can join, by the way. I've just had this question. So anybody can join. I think Carla has just posted again the link to join the working group. I also want to ask Yara to maybe also to post a link or take a minute to share, to explain to people how they can join if they wanted to the Global Alliance for Care. Why don't you do it now, Yara, and then I will continue.
Sure. So first of all, just to mention that affiliation and membership to the Global Alliance for Care is on an institutional or organizational basis. So it would have to be not an individual, but rather a representative of an organization. It can also be an academic institution. In order to join you, I'll leave you an email address in the chat. Please write us, and then we're happy to schedule a call with you to tell you a bit more about what membership entails. Membership is free, by the way, flexible. You don't have to commit any amount of hours. The idea is to provide interested actors with a space to learn about care, to learn about what's happening around the world around care, any opportunities, any major developments like international resolutions, frameworks, sometimes calls for specific project funding, etc. And the process is actually quite simple. Once you have a call with us, we will only ask you for a letter of interest. But I can explain all of that in further details if you write me, and I'm happy to follow up with this.
And I also want to emphasize what our friend and colleague from Palestine is saying, Sama Aweda. I'm very happy that you're with us, Sama. Indeed, we're really mindful of the major problem and probably long-term, irreversible damage that the genocide and the war, not just in Gaza, but all over Palestine, in South Lebanon, in Sudan, in Yemen, etc., is causing because women pick up, and that's a point that Hadil made very clear, women are picking up the pieces of everything that is broken down. And unfortunately, it's not something that we are talking about. And it will not be talked about in the recovery process as and when there is a recovery process. So that's why it's very important that we do it through the MENA Working Group on Care. And that's something that is not just this region, but many regions that go through conflict and displacement, and destruction. So just to close this conversation, first of all, I want to thank you ever so much for joining. There are 3 things that are still open, and you can do it. First of all, check out if you would like to join the MENA Working Group on Care. As I said, this is an informal working group. It's not a place for funding. It's a working group. It's an informal think tank where we're trying together to push the discussion and to push the work on care in the MENA region. There is also a survey, a link to a very quick survey that Carla has shared again. So those of you who haven't filled it, please do, because this will help us also think about the way forward, also shaping the ideas in terms of what kind of capacity building. We're very happy that we are doing this in a form of South-South collaboration, be it with the Global Alliance for Care, and also which is based in Mexico, and also the possibilities in terms of knowledge resources that the Global Alliance for Care is will be supporting us with. I want to circle back to my colleague Carla has presented. If you have any resource that you have created, and we're very much interested in localized resources and knowledge products on care, please send them to us. So that we can include them in the knowledge hub on care. Yes, we will follow up with an email that includes the survey, the connection with everybody who is here, unless you do not want your email to be shared. In this case, tell us about it. The third thing is that you could also peruse and check out the link to the Global Alliance for Care, and which is also in the link. And there are also emails to if you want to ask to join. You also have the email of my colleague Carla to send your resources so that we can consolidate everything into one hub that is accessible for all. Moving forward, we will send everybody an email with the main points and the action points from this first meeting, in addition to the presentation, and also de facto, in addition to the names of everybody who is here. And we will start scheduling and planning together the capacity building events based on what your interest and what we can offer and what the Global Alliance for Care can offer. We will also be looking out for, we will also reach out to you once our 2 research papers are available and finalized, because we would like to share the results with you and put them at your disposal. And I think with this, Carla, have I forgotten anything? I think that was basically what we wanted to share with you. Hadil and Yara, do you have any final words in closing this meeting? Hadil?
شكرا لينا. لا بس يعني كل التوفيق يعني، ونتمنى انه نسمع اكثر عن النولج برودكشن، واكيد في كتير قضايا اللي بنحتاج نغطيها بهذا الموضوع. فشكرا لكم وشكرا لجميع المشاركين والمشاركات.
شكرا كتير. Yara, any last words?
Yes, I mean, first of all, also thanking everybody who's participated. It's really wonderful and very exciting to see the level of interest and the level of work that's already going on in the region. That's very encouraging. I also just wanted to note that on our website, you can also we have a resource hub there with a lot of information, research, policy papers around care policies and care achievements around the world. There's a lot of inspiring also stories, especially from Latin America, where this agenda has been has had a lot of momentum and success. So I hope this can also serve as some sort of inspiration. We know that contexts are very different and resources and capacities are very different across regions, but I hope it will also be a spark also to imagine how people are working on this issue worldwide. And I hope we can, as the Alliance, make a bridge also for these global conversations.
Thank you, Yara. Thank you, Carla. Thank you, Hadil. And thank you to all of you who have been with us and also who shared their basically their personal information. Thank you, Lama, for your very encouraging note. And so, sorry?
أنا أسفة يعني عندي سؤال صغير توضيحي بس. أنتوا كنتوا حطيتوا اللينك بتاع الاستبيان، بس اللينك ده كنت أنا مليته قبل كده وبعته. هل أعيد كتابته تاني وأرسله ليكوا، ولا اللي كتبه وبعته خلاص؟
Okay. Those who have already filled the survey, it's the same survey, so you don't need to fill it twice. So you're done. This is for those who haven't had the chance to fill it, because the more we have people filling it, the more we know about your interest, and the more, I mean, whether it's a thematic interest or whether it's in terms of what kind of collaboration. So you don't need to do it twice. This is absolutely fine. But again, we will be sending everything to all of you. And we're very happy with the diversity of countries. Again, this answers the question of taking into consideration the diversity of context. So thank you all for being with us. And maybe the last thing I want to say is thank you for our 2 wonderful interpreters and for being with us in all this learning journey. Thank you so much, both of you. شكرا كتير جميعا, and you will be hearing from us with all the information that we will be sharing back with you, and also it won't be long before we meet again for the next convening. شكرا كتير جميعا. شكرا.